Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Bill Collins with MAGIX, and today we are going to go over some of the new features in Samplitude Pro X5. Thanks again for joining us. If you've joined us before, we're doing these webinars every Thursday. Please subscribe and you'll get notified when we have webinars coming up and when we go live. And essentially what we're going to be doing is going over all, well, not all, because we have a lot of products, but a lot of our products, more of our professional line of audio products. We'll be discussing mixing, mastering, production, all sorts of things. And we're planning on doing this every Thursday. So if you are a user of Samplitude, I think you'll really enjoy today's webinar. Version 5 was released this past Monday on April 20th. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the new features. Okay, so let's get started. Also, I'll mention that I do have colleagues joining me on the chat. So if you have any questions, enter that in the chat and someone will respond to you. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, I want to talk about the new monitoring section. So let me bring that up here. I'm going to add it. And I'll drag it into the middle of the screen for a better view. So let me explain what the monitoring section is all about. Now, I have to apologize. Due to the kind of hardware requirements with doing this live stream, I was unable to kind of connect and use the monitoring section to its full capability, but hopefully this description will give you a good idea of what it can do. So essentially what the monitoring section allows you to do, from right inside Samplitude or Sequoia, you can control your monitors. Okay. So first of all, we have from going left to right, I'll go through each section here. You have the master input. You can choose the source of the monitoring section to be not only your master, but you can choose from different inputs as well. So you can have a hardware connection coming from another device, if that's your audio source. And then we have an input level to control that. Then we have a familiar big knob, so you can control the volume coming through your monitors. We have the ability to go into monitor in mono. Great for checking your mix. We can easily mute here. And of course, dim, if we need to bring the volume down just a little bit so we can hear each other talk, or if somebody walks into the room while you're mixing. So Samplitude ships with two outputs. So if I have two sets of monitors, we can switch between them right from this interface, which is a great feature. So if you have your near field monitors for more detailed mixing and your far fields for more frequency response, you have an option there. You also have plugins that you can choose. So you could add perhaps an EQ to help take care of certain acoustic room situations that you may have. So you can add plugins to monitor for your output. You also have a talkback section, which is great. So you can be able to talk back, send right from your interface out to, say, the control room and control that right from here. Of course, you can also set up plugins there. So perhaps an EQ, maybe you put a high-pass filter, perhaps, or a compressor to make sure that you're more clear and you can communicate more effectively with the people that are listening in the other room. That about does it. That's the new monitoring section. The monitoring section for Sequoia will look a little bit different. More inputs, more outputs is essentially the big difference there. So keep an eye out for an update to Sequoia in the future. But that does it for the monitoring section. Let me move on. And we're going to talk about automation. So we now have a new set of automation curves to choose from when you're mixing. So let me draw in some automation here. So I'll add an automation lane and just do something simple with volume. And make a couple nodes here. And drag this down. But now, you stay on top of this node, right click. You now have different curves that you can choose from. And then you can adjust their behavior and shape as well. Pretty cool and very effective. We all know as editors how important drawing in the perfect fade can be. So this gives you a lot of options. Okay, so we can also apply this to object-based automation. So let me clear this out. And bring up an object editor. One moment. If I right click here, I also have the ability to change the automation shapes and curves using object-based automation as well. So try that. Kind of how that works. Try some of these different shapes. So on and so forth. So this is great. This allows you to be very detailed with both track-based automation as well as object-based automation. Okay. Let's move on. The next thing I want to show you is the new tempo track. What I'm going to do is go up here and add a new track. And you can see that we have another option here for a new tempo track. Okay. So what we can do is enter a tempo. There's a variety of different ways we can do that. We can, just like we would draw in volume automation, we can draw in tempo curves here, tempo changes, sorry. We can also place our cursor somewhere. Let me actually snap on, that's on, okay. Go down here, and then I can press this little insert tempo change button at this specific place. So yeah, fine. So you get the idea. So essentially, the tempo track is controlling all the MIDI data, and then if we have audio that's elastic, it would also change with the tempo changes as well. So the new tempo track has complete control over everything in your VIP. Okay, moving on. So we're talking about the third new feature that I'd like to show you guys today. Sorry, the fourth new feature. I've showed you monitoring section, automation curves, and tempo track. Let's talk about MPE. So first of all, what does MPE stand for? It stands for MIDI Polyphonic Expression. So essentially what you can do with MPE is you can have more control over your MIDI performance. If you've ever used a device by Roly, like the Roly C board, you can perform notes, and right from that singular note, you can do some gestures and movements to control vibrato and pitch and all sorts of other things. And so Samplitude Pro X5 fully supports MPE, so you can have some really creative expression this way. So let's discuss it a little bit further. Let me bring in a MIDI track. And I will insert MIDI object like so. So there's a few things you need to know how to set this up for MPE. So if you do have a MIDI, an MPE MIDI controller, you want to kind of follow these steps. So I have a MIDI track, made a MIDI object. The next thing you want to do is in your track editor down here, in the MIDI section, make sure that you choose MPE. Okay, and that's going to set up a few things here. I'm going to double click to bring up my MIDI editor window. And you might see things look a little bit differently here. So I'm just going to draw in some notes. Okay, one note to an octave above, and one more. So what's different? Well, all of these notes that I've drawn in are all on their own MIDI channel. So each note can have its own plethora of MIDI control actions and performance behaviors. So let me demonstrate this a little bit more here. So what I'm going to do is just draw in some pitch bend information. So this pitch bend applies just to that note, not being affected by the other notes. Same thing goes for the other one. So I can get a little crazy in there with all this MIDI automation and all this different data, but hopefully you get the idea that every note essentially can have its own set of MIDI responses and behaviors, so you can have a lot of control and a lot of really expression using MPE. So Samplitude Pro X5 fully supports MPE, and if you have a MPE capable device like the Rolly Seaboard, I urge you to load up an instrument and start experimenting with some of the different expressions that you can do. And all that information should be recorded perfectly right inside, and then you can go in and edit the information after the fact in the MIDI editor. Okay, so next up, let's talk about WaveColor. So I actually have WaveColor on already by default. And as you can see, I have a lot going on here. Various different, the waves are different colors. So if it's not turned on by default, you'll want to go into your settings here. And under View Options, and you may notice now that Comparisonics is no more. WaveColor has replaced Comparisonics. So essentially what Comparisonics did, and WaveColor does, is it reveals information about the sound by color, okay? So for example, lower sounds, lower frequency sounds are a darker color. Higher frequency sounds are a lighter color or a brighter color. So why is this useful? Well, I can think of a couple really good examples. Is every audio engineer's and audio editor's nemesis, if you're doing dialogue and vocals, is sibilance. And we have various different tools to control sibilance, like de-essers, of course. Some people like to do it more manual and find where the sibilance is and maybe just turn that down. So there's lots of different techniques. But what's great about using WaveColor is it shows you various different information just by looking at it. Okay, so I can see that there's certain high frequencies and lower frequencies. So this is great for that type of editing. All right, so let's just solo out this drum track and have a listen. So I'll play it some more. So a great example of this is your kick drums are a darker color and your hi-hats are a lighter color. And that's very clear to see this. So this can be very helpful in the editing process, just going through and getting rid of sibilance. So there you go. Also low rumble and various things. Let's go back to the view options. There we go. And we have a few options here for WaveColor. Let's just explore some of these different options. Classic view. Now, another thing that you'll see, and this is pretty clear to see with drum tracks, is if something is darker, when we can also reveal noise information. So certain enharmonic tones, a lot of noise, conflicting frequencies, and non-harmonious content will reveal itself in WaveColor is a darker color. And the lighter colors or more colorful colors in the wave will show a color and not be as dark. And those are going to be more of kind of the harmonious content. So that can inform lots of things and can inform how you choose to edit or mix, what instrument you bring up or bring down, how you EQ things. So really, I personally think that WaveColor is a great assistant to have. It kind of helps you visualize what's going on in your mix and can really speed up the editing process of instead of having to listen to a lot of looping a certain section over and over again, you can quickly see certain frequencies or trouble spots in the audio. Okay, so that's WaveColor. Again, that has replaced Comparisonics, and you can choose from a variety of different view options here. So experiment with the various different resolutions and the different colors and the different display options that you have with WaveColor. And I'd be curious to hear maybe in the comments if you've used something like this before and maybe how you've used it for your editing work. Okay, so the final new feature that I want to show you is some of the new third-party content that comes with Samplitude Pro X5. So first of all, let's talk about convology. So Convology XT is a monster. It's a monster effect. It's a plugin that models loads and loads of classic reverb and effect units. So you have all of these classic sounds, from reverb to tape delay and all sorts of other things, available via impulse responses and modeling. So right at your fingertips, you have access to loads and loads of vintage effects, plates, springs, various different echo chambers, and things like that. The more kind of modern, I say modern, but it's almost modern vintage digital gear, which you started to see coming out in the 80s and 90s. A lot of that has been modeled here. So maybe let's give a listen to that. I'm going to put this on the drums instead. I think that's a better instrument to kind of highlight this. Not. Bass, that's pretty muffled, fluffy. And what can we come up with here? Let's go with a spring. Solo this drums out and let's have a listen. Dial it back a bit. So Kontakt GXT ships with Samplitude Pro X5, loads and loads of classic modeled reverbs and other effects. Can't wait to dig into this and start mixing with it. Okay, next up, as far as third-party effects, Samplitude ships with Melodyne Essentials 4. And that's great, obviously, so we can do some pitch correction, timing correction with our performances. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate how you can use Melodyne in Samplitude. So what I'd like to do is take this bass groove and start to edit some of the notes in Melodyne. What you need to do here is just right-click, choose Edit Audio File in Melodyne. Bring up Melodyne here, and a bit down below here, so I'm just going to scroll down. There it is. I love Melodyne. So awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and play that. So obviously we can use Melodyne to affect some pitch, but the cool thing is that this is all in real time. This uses ARA2 technology. So the changes that I make on the fly here in Melodyne will be heard immediately in my track. Okay. So back in the day, if you use Melodyne, you would have to learn. You would have to record it in essentially into Melodyne, but now we can process it in real time. So this is great for pitch correction. And so I'm just going to move around some of these notes and see what we come up with. So let's see, that is a G. Let's slide this guy up here. Uh-oh. Interesting. What's going on here? Sorry. One moment. There we go. Okay, cool. That was odd. Not a good choice there for a note change, but so what can we do with this? We can correct pitch. We can, in this case, this is just from a loop library, so you could make a boring loop a little more interesting by kind of playing with the notes a little bit. But that sounded great. That sounded really like the original bass player was just hitting a different note. So very, very smooth and sounds great. So again, Melodyne 4 Essentials ships with Samplitude Pro X5 Suite, and we can edit the pitch right inside Samplitude in real time, and it will play back perfectly right into Samplitude. So if you purchase Samplitude Pro X Suite, that comes with Spectra Layers Pro 6. Spectra Layers is an amazing spectral editor. So this would allow us to get rid of noise, find certain guitar strings, scratches and scrapes, things like that. Get those away, get them out of the mix, or bring them down, and really pretty much in this exact same behavior that we have here. And We'll likely follow up with a video that kind of walks through a variety of different scenarios for editing using ARA, Samplitude, Melodyne, you name it. Okay, so it's about, just have a few minutes left. I hope that you guys are excited about the new version of Samplitude. I'm just going to check out the chat and see if there's anything that I can help with. Oh, great. Lots of comments. Excellent. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to sign off here, and we will see you in a future webinar. Thanks so much, and take care.